Okay, so cannabis regulators from 45 states have called on U.S. Congress to define hemp as a crop grown exclusively for industrial and agricultural purposes, to close loopholes that have allowed for unsafe synthetic THC products to proliferate. In a letter sent last week to agricultural committees in the Senate and the House of Representatives, the Cannabis Regulators Association, or CANRA, urged the changes be made included in the 2023 Farm Bill expected to be passed by the end of this year. The changes would shore up language in the 2018 Farm Bill, which legalized hemp federally, but didn't account for synthetic THC products derived from hemp-derived THC. The Agricultural Improvement Act of 2018, aka the 2018 Farm Bill, was drafted with a focus on agricultural commodities and non-intoxicating hemp products. However, the language of the bill has inadvertently resulted in a thriving market for intoxicating cannabinoid products that are included or claimed to be included within the definition of hemp, the letter observes. As the market for CBD extracts booms and then crashed quickly in the wake of the 2018 Farm Bill passage, shady producers found a market for hemp-derived CBD among makers of Delta-8 and other high-producing formulations, which quickly proliferated and are widely available at common retail outlets, other than often in packaging that mimic leading brands of candy or other treats targeted to children. In the absence of federal clarity, regulation over finished cannabinoid products, state and territorial governments have been left to implement approaches to protect consumers, CANRA said in the letter. These approaches vary and are generally different across jurisdictions, creating a regulatory patchwork for hemp-derived products. Additionally, enforcement of state-based regulations by state agencies is difficult when hemp-derived products are produced out of state and shipped directly to consumers across state lines through the mail. For these reasons, federal regulatory engagement is warranted, the association said. The letter also suggested the bill should be more clearly to address hemp-derived THCA in the context of hemp. THCA is the precursor to Delta-9 THC and can be converted to a synthetic form of Delta-9 THC, the more common form of THC that naturally occurs in marijuana plants. That statement is factually incorrect. I'll keep reading. When heated or combusted or aerosolized, the state cannabis programs define THC in terms of the THCA plus THC that's present in the plant. The regulators also said the federal agency should clarify whether synthetic cannabinoids are allowed under the definition of hemp-derived cannabinoids and give guidance on approved production and manufacturing processes. Suggested definitions. CANRA suggested the following definitions. Hemp. The term hemp means the plant Cannabis sativa L or any part of the plant, whether growing or not, with a total tetrahydrocannabinol concentration of not more than 0.3% in the plant on a dry weight basis. The term hemp does not include viable seeds from Cannabis sativa L plant if the plant exceeded the total THC concentration of 0.3% in the plant on a dry weight basis. Hemp-derived products. The term hemp-derived cannabinoid products means any hemp-derived cannabinoid, a hemp-derived product that is not in the raw plant and is extracted, derived, infused, processed, or manufactured that contains cannabinoids in any form intended for human consumption or inhalation, including but not limited to combusted, aerosolized, inhaled products, ingested products in any form, and topical products. Canada's response or correspondence to Congress this month follows a letter the association sent to key congressional committees back in July, which suggested a national framework be established for all hemp-based cannabinoids, including CBD and any downstream products made from CBD, as well as other minor cannabinoids present in industrial hemp. And that's the story. So I just want to make a few points. So the Farm Bill does have to clarify that high THC hemp is not hemp at all. It's cannabis. And they just need to do that by saying that the hemp has to be analyzed by a process that decarboxylates any cannabinoid acid, so that the THCA there would be decarboxylated and turned into THC. So THCA is 87% by weight THC. So a high THCA containing variety is going to be high THC containing variety, and there's not going to be an ambiguity there. The other thing is that, and I've said this before on High at 9, Delta-8 THC does not exist in hemp. Let me say that again, just so everybody hears it. Delta-8 THC does not naturally occur in hemp. Any Delta-8 THC, which is a minuscule amount, is an artifact of the measurement made on that plant material or on that distillate. Because Delta-9 is thermodynamically favored to go to Delta-8 if given the opportunity, it can easily happen. The plant does not make Delta-8 configured cannabinoids. It only makes Delta-9 configured cannabinoids, and it does so in an enzymatic way, so it's very, very specific, and does not make, there is no natural source of Delta-8 THC, there is no natural source of hexahydrocannabinol. These are man-made and synthetic. Delta-8 can be viewed as a degradation product because Delta-9 is naturally occurring, and if given the opportunity, Delta-9 will isomerize over to Delta-8. So in that way, Delta-8 is kind of like CBN. It's a degradation product. It's not made in the plant. But these Delta-8 hustlers and their attorneys that shill for them have to desperately stick to the notion that Delta-8 naturally occurs in the plant and their process just magically concentrates it. Bullshit. Delta-8 is made by a synthetic reaction, not in a plant, but in a laboratory like this or a reaction vessel. So those products are only made available through the ridiculousness of cannabis prohibition. If they get rid of cannabis prohibition and remove cannabis from the controlled dangerous substance and make it readily available, there won't be a market for Delta-8 and there won't be a market for HHC and all these other designer synthetics. This is Dr. Mark for High at 9 News, interested on what you guys have to say.
Man, oh man, Dr. Mark, Delta-8 does not occur naturally in plants. Oh boy. There's a lot of hempsters out there. Their minds are just exploding right now.
They're gonna shank me on the way out of work tonight, right?
I mean, fortunately, you're like so far up north that like most of them won't travel that far.
Well, and truth is, I mean, if people had access to high quality cannabis, there wouldn't be
There'd be
this
no need,
synthetic cannabinoid.
There'd be no need for Delta-8 if people.
And Jason, what I think I had said this on a previous episode. What I found out from a friend of mine who sits on the Colorado has actually got a group of people who are very concerned about this, and so they got together a task force. And what he told me, based on the economics, is that synthetic cannabinoid market is bigger than the combined cannabis markets altogether. Yeah. So if you take all the individual cannabis markets across the state and you look at the size of the synthetic cannabinoid market, it dwarfs that. Or the synthetic cannabinoid dwarf the. So
I agree with
this
that.
Is something that they need to fix.
I agree with that, and yet all these states and municipalities want to boast all these crazy high numbers when they get all this tax revenue, when they open up a marketplace and this and oh yeah, we did such a great job, but yet that number is actually dwarfed due to the fact that they are allowing all these synthetic products on the market.
Well, are they allowing those synthetic products,
Yeah,
or
I
they're trying
said
to get rid of it?
no. Well, they
Well,
haven't, Dr. T, and whether or not they make those proper edits that they need to in this rendition of the Farm Bill is yet to be finalized in that sense. I think that they want to and they are trying to, but there's a big difference between wanting and trying to, and actually having some concrete language that actually has some regulatory teeth in place that there will be some real enforcement and steers that behavior somewhere else.
It simply was not the intent of Congress when they passed the Farm Bill in 2018
I agree with
to
that.
enable production of intoxicating
Yep,
cannabinoids. I believe, Jason, they didn't
that's
even
true.
fully even understand
They
the
didn't.
CBD
They
opportunity.
didn't under.
I believe I believe they got snookered on fiber, seeds, oil, and rope.
Hmm.
And that was sort of like the shiny object. Oh yeah, Farm Bill. Okay, let's make rope out of hemp.
Well, not only that too, Dr. Mark, but at that time too, that was when we were putting a lot of money into repurposing all of our manufacturing facilities to bring jobs back here to America, and so that was hosted as one of the things to bring back American production jobs as well. And so,
I mean, like you, they got caught with their pants down, right? Because the regulations don't make any sense, and there's a wide open gap, and people are taking advantage of that. You know, it's hard for me because
is there only a wide open gap because your pants are down?
I mean, this isn't when we talk about this article and going down the rabbit hole. Let's just make sure that's the orifice we're talking about. Is the rabbit hole.
But I would go back even further and say that we made a mistake when we started distinguishing and saying marijuana versus hemp. That's not the way botanists look at it. They use a THC CBD ratio to type it type 1, type 2, and type 3. And that allows for ratio and not this absolute content. I mean, and plus marijuana is a slur word anyway.
Yeah, and I agree with you, Dr. Talleyrand. I really love to hear your and Dr. Mark's opinion on this because in the Controlled Substances Act and the definition of the Farm Bill is used from the Controlled Substances Act as far as hemp as all cannabis sativa L. They both have the same definitions, whether it be cannabis or hemp. They all have the same definitions under the Controlled Substances Act. So how do they really get around that as trying to say that this is two different things?
Yeah, I think they could just be a little more explicit around the fact that THC is in the form of THCA in the plant, you know? I mean, if you read the Code of Federal Regulations and you go down, they do require a test that decarboxylates any cannabinoid acid, and that the formula of adding the existing THC plus 0.877 times the THCA concentration is the correct way to determine the total THC in those plants. They just need to be more explicit about this because they left it open. Yeah, people exploited it as a loophole.
Dr. Mark, would you consider THCV as part of the total THC?
Well,
because it's not reported that way.
No, THCV is a completely different molecule, and here's the thing with THCV, Jean, is that just the way that people are converting CBD into Delta-8 and Delta-9 THC, people are converting chemically CBDV, which there are high varieties for, and CBDV, just like CBD, is a white crystalline solid, so they can get it, crystallize it, and then they're chemically converting CBDV into THCV. Now, when they first started with this chemical conversion, they weren't very good at their chemistry, and they were pushing everything off what I call thermodynamic cliff and landing in Delta-8 land. They've figured out how to control the reaction kinetically and stop at Delta-9, because the way that these things work is CBD kinetically first makes Delta-9, and then under the reaction conditions, it often isomerizes over to Delta-8. But they've become more sophisticated in the chemistry that they can do, and they could stop right at Delta-9. So Delta-9 THCV that's out there, which sells for about $10,000 a kilogram as isolate, is made chemically from the chemical conversion of CBDV, similar to the way that they're converting CBD. And at first, all of those THCV products were all Delta-8 THCV. Now they've been able to figure out how to control that to make Delta-9 THCV. John, I wanted to mention the other things too. The other odd cannabinoids like THCP and THCH and THCB, they're all claiming that those come from hemp. They don't come from hemp. Those are all derived synthetically. They don't occur naturally in cannabis at high enough levels to be able to extract them, but because people did the detective work, found that they exist in trace quantities, now people are making them and calling things like THCP, which has got a 7 carbon side chain, as opposed to THC, which has only got a 5 carbon. THCV has got a 3 carbon, right? So these are all sort of analogs in the same sort of molecular class, so to speak.
I mean, when you get deep into the science, I took my pants off while you were talking.
Yes.
Okay? I'm fucking ready to play in the lab.
Yes.
Slather me up with some Purell and let's dance. I think for those of us who don't have as extensive a science background, and remember that I'm always using large words when I'm talking about you half naked, okay? Who don't have a robust and girthy science background. What's often difficult for the layperson is this use of this word synthetic, right? Because there is synthetic and then there's synthetically derived through processes, manufacturing concentration processes, and that word is used interchangeably to the layperson. It's like, wait, is that synthetic, or is that did it go through another extraction process synthetically derived in a lab? I mean, the bottom line has always been the bottom line, which is there's these massive gaps in regulations, and instead of determining regulatory paradigms because of which plant it came from, we should just have one for psychotropic cannabinoids and non-psychotropic cannabinoids, and leave it at that, and make sure that there's supply chain safety for however a cannabinoid is produced.
Well, I'll maintain that if cannabis prohibition is ended and they remove cannabis from the Controlled Dangerous Substance Act, this market for recreational synthetics is going to go away. Because people will have unfettered access to high quality cannabis. That's all they need. They don't need all this other bullshit. All this other bullshit should be left for researchers like me in the lab to develop new medicines and take them through safety and efficacy. None of those things have been through safety or efficacy. We don't know if any of those odd synthetic cannabinoids, are problematic in terms of chronic impact on human health. We just don't know. So there's a big experiment that these hemp hustlers are playing with the public right now, and yeah, regulation needs to step in. It's time.
Now,
and to make it even safer, we should just allow those to be put in non-medical device grade vape products, and make sure that it's not age restricted either, right? Like, let's just experiment on the whole fucking population. Why don't we? I didn't want to be a grandparent anyway. Let the kids run with it.
They already did that. They already did that already. We're past that point. But Dr. Talleyrand, I have a quick question for you, because we were having this discussion, I believe, on Wednesday with Dr. Mark, and I want to know if you feel as though that from a medical perspective that you could make this argument as an expert witness in court, that basically that all cannabis would have to be considered and classified as THCA due to the fact that it has not been burned yet.
I'm not bending over and coughing. Don't get that glove in front of the screen. I'm not doing that today.
Isn't it already classified as THCA? What do you mean?
That's what I'm saying. So what I'm saying is that I'm willing to bet that people could start to now make the argument that if they're pulled over with cannabis, that they could just say that that's THCA and that's legal in the Farm Bill, and because it hasn't been burned, they couldn't legally say that it was THC.
Oh, I mean, I'm not a legal expert, but it's
I'm just asking, in your expert medical opinion, would you agree that it would be classified as THCA until it's actually smoked?
Well, sure, but it's kind of like saying it's not alcohol if the bottle's not open.
I mean, technically,
it's still THC.
I get that. So you're my answer. So we're good. We're good. I'm happy. I'm happy that that this is great knowledge going on over here today. Man, I have